Hello and happy Sunday to all of my beautiful listeners. Today it's your host Kim. Welcome back to the Self-Love Witch podcast. As promised, I am dropping another episode within the Soft Girl series. So today's episode, as you can see by the title, it's about using our rest as an act of resistance. And I'm just going to expand on why our rest is an act of resistance. Not only that, I'm also going to touch on ways to de-stress, because I just feel stress is one of the biggest problems for women in general. I feel that we don't necessarily know how to manage it. I feel that we don't know how to tune into ourselves and notice when things are too much. I feel like we are over nurturers. I feel like we are over givers, over lovers. I feel like we just do a lot of things in excessiveness sometimes, to the point that we don't notice that we're doing the most, to the extent that we are draining ourselves, So I am going to dive right into this. So once again, thanks for tuning in. So using our rest as an act of resistance, right? Because we're in a world that consistently is finding ways to disconnect us from ourselves and be dependent on others' perceptions of ourselves, as far as what we should be doing, how we should respond to situations, how we should operate on a day-to-day basis, right? So I feel like rest is revolutionary, especially for us as women, because slowing down to take the time to tune into ourselves, one, it keeps our intuition up to par. It's great spiritual hygiene, okay? And it's our responsibility to stay connected to ourselves and not get engulfed in the chaos of all things occurring outside of ourselves, right? So when I talk about spiritual hygiene, I feel like that's the biggest thing about just our rest, because I'm a very holistic minded person. So even when things are going wrong physically, I always want to look at what's going on mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Like, I always want to know what's the full compass. And that's why I enjoy holistic health so much, because it doesn't leave anything out. It incorporates everything that is a part of our human existence, right? And I feel like that's very important to integrate within healing anything, right? So it's great spiritual hygiene because, one, in this kind of world, this is a hustle culture we have going on in this world. Everyone's on go, 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 go. My goal is to slow. I don't know about y'all, but I have no desire to be in the hustle girl culture at all. I just want to be within my calling and do what I'm supposed to do, and do my best with my gifts and expand on that. But I'm not ever striving to be in competitive arenas. I'm not ever striving to be in this hustle bustle race to the top. I'm not that kind of person. And I feel like when you are spiritual, you do adopt that mindset where it's like, when things are for me, they cannot be taken from me. They are mine. They're just waiting for me to align with them so that they can come forth to me. And that's legit my mindset. So when it comes to spiritual hygiene, in this culture where we're just hustling and bustling, we're around so many different energies. We're around so many different things that can impact us on a day-to-day basis. We have family, we have friend issues, we have work issues, we have financial things, financial obligations. We have a lot of things outside of us, especially if you are someone who is a businesswoman or just anyone who has a lot of obligations, mothers, anyone, any woman. It's very important for us to slow down. We have to have those moments to slow down. And even if it's for 5 minutes a day, and this sounds so cliche, but I legit was the type to be like, I don't have time. I'm just always stressing my mind. I don't have time. You gotta make time for yourself. Even while you're taking a shower, if you just close your eyes for 5 minutes in that shower and just breathe, focus on your breath work, focus on just settling into your body. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but recently, since I've been home a lot more often now, I have been kind of just pausing, and I've been like, do I feel like I'm within my body? Because when life is just lifing, right? And it's so many things going on, and you just pause. I don't know, but I paused, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I'm in my body. I felt like my brain was in overdrive. I was definitely very stressed at the time. My brain was in overdrive. I felt like my body was just kept going despite me wanting to slow down. Like, I just felt like my body would not rest. And so eventually, of course, I feel like if you don't slow down when you get the signs, your body's going to slow you down for you. Or God will slow you down, So I finally was like, okay, I need to settle into my body. So I remember sitting there and I was like, I'm going to just go through every part of my body. And I'm just going to be like, bring the energy to my head, bring the energy to my neck, bring the energy to my chest, bring the energy to my waist, to my belly button, to my thighs, to my hips, to everything, all the way, up and down, because I wanted to make sure I was registering how I felt in each part of my body and making sure I was in tune with myself, and even stretching too, Stretching to me is one of the biggest ways that I do tune into myself, to tune into my body, which helps me tune into myself. And it's all about just learning what works for you. But it helps me tune into myself because when I'm stretching and I'm moving my body, especially with dancing, I love to dance. When I do those things for myself, I notice it's imperative for me because it keeps me feeling in control of my being. I feel like in order to feel like you're not, like life is not just living you and you're living life, it's important to always feel like you're within yourself and you are, and you're, living, you know what I mean? And you're not on overdrive and you're not being robotic with your day-to-day experiences. And, I feel like that's a huge thing. And I feel like it's really helped me so far in my journey of, using my rest intentionally, because, it's sleeping isn't enough these days. I mean, sleeping ain't enough. A lot of people don't find peace in their sleep, so people have to find other ways to find peace and to bring that peace in. So, if you're into that, I would, definitely recommend you to try that, because it definitely is it's grounding. It's very grounding, and I feel like being grounded is very important too. So me, I do have a list here. So aside of us being connected to ourselves, I also want to touch on with using our rest as a revolutionary act, not only for ourselves but just as just in general. I feel like we need to incorporate more rest nationwide. I feel like there's so much stress and people are consumed with the things that really don't necessarily matter. People's perceptions of them, things that really they can't control. You know what I mean? So I want to touch on, us in our singlehood, and just talk about using our singlehood and our solitude intentionally. You know what I mean? And, you don't have to ignore when you need time for yourself. And you don't have to be afraid to say no either. I think this year was the year that I really learned the power of not only my silence, but of saying no. And I never really was a people pleaser, but I feel like this year I kind of dived into my people pleasing ways a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I definitely dived into my people pleasing ways a little bit, to the extent where I found myself over accommodating certain people that I just feel like didn't deserve that. You know what I'm saying? Especially because I was finding myself putting myself on the back burner and putting myself secondary, when in reality, when you're interacting with anyone, you guys should both have a love for yourself to the extent where you guys are not gonna put yourselves in positions where you feel like you are compromising yourself, but also have that love for each other where it's like, I'm gonna make sure you're not compromising yourself either. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I look for now within friendships and within relationships, is that I want to make sure that there's this large, very deep understanding that at the end of the day, we want to make sure that all of our boundaries are being respected, and we are all feeling like our voice matters, and we're all feeling like we can speak up, and things like that. So apart from that, using that singlehood and solitude intentionally is, don't look at that time period as a time to dwell on what you do not have, whether it's a lover, whether it's friendships, because honestly speaking, I have been on both sides of the spectrum. I've had times where I've had no friends, no lovers, and I've been to myself, and I didn't use that time properly. I used it to dwell on what I didn't have, instead of using it how I'm using it now, which is to really be in a relationship with myself and really focus on what makes me happy, doing what makes me happy, figuring out what my boundaries are, even more so. I'm digging way deeper into that, figuring out who I am, learning to love myself in a multitude of different ways. And, you know, I think it's a beautiful thing to look at that concept of your relationship with yourself during your solitude, because honestly speaking, I think relationships are very beautiful when they're healthy, when they're aligned, and they're, you know, divinely connected. But other than that, I feel like they can be distractions, and they can be things that, you know, they can be teachers. But I feel like sometimes we get into situations or into connections with people that really are distractions to our, you know, our evolution. And sometimes we seek those distractions, and subconsciously we don't realize we do it, but sometimes we look for those things to distract us from what we really need to work on. So, you know, I always implore us to really kind of explore why we're dating, why we're friends with certain people. Like the last episode I did about evaluating your tribe. You want to evaluate why you guys are friends, why you guys are connected, what value they bring into your life, what value you bring into their life, you know, and really make sure you're not really wasting your time or just finding ways to neglect yourself. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go straight into de-stressing our life. You know, a part of that rest being an act of resistance. I want to identify stress and talk about ways to identify stress, you know, because stress comes in a multitude of ways. It's not just things that are going on that can add stress to your life. It's also, we have ways that we stress ourselves out that we don't necessarily pay attention to. So I'm really diving into that, honestly. So lo and behold, we all know stress kills and impairs our judgment. It impairs our intuition. It impairs our creative abilities, our focus, our hormones. I can go on forever, right? Like stress is something that it's an unmistakable feeling, and it really can break a person. And we all know that. Stress can really break a person. So these ways that I'm currently practicing to de-stress my life, because that is so imperative to me. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not have a high stress tolerance. I don't. And if you're like me, where you have had a very anxious kind of childhood, or you were very, you were in situations where you had to be in survival for extended periods of time growing up, I do want to say, like, getting out of that survival mode, it definitely is hard. But once you do, and stress does come back, it is triggering. It's very, very triggering. Little situations can feel like the utmost craziest situations because of triggers. You know, trauma does remain in the body for extended periods of time. And not only that, triggers are very real, and you do have to pay attention to yours. And, you know, don't let anyone tell you that you should not have a trigger. A trigger is a trigger because it's your personal trigger. You know what I mean? So it's all about knowing yourself, knowing ourselves, and knowing how to catch it, and knowing how to kind of just try your best to, you know, use preventative care to kind of not have as many situations where you are triggered, right? So when you know you don't have a high stress tolerance like myself, having a de-stressor routine is very important. So I'm gonna touch on mine, right? So one of the things that I like to do, you know, as much as I can, is to do like a daily energy release, whether that's just having quiet time right after work where I'm not really talking to anyone. I'm taking like an hour or two to myself, and I'm just, you know, I'm not, my messages are muted. My phone is on D&D. I have a book, or I'm listening to music, or I'm just settling into myself, or I'm cleaning. I just have to have moments where I am transmuting my energy, especially if it was a stressful day. I like to go on walks in the park. I love to watch the sunset. That's something for me that I like to do. I like to be in nature. Nature always de-stresses me all the time. Hug a tree. And don't care if you look crazy to people, okay? Hug a tree. I promise you, change your life. Hug a tree, Hug a tree. Promise you. Speak to a tree. They're listening all the time. They talk back too. They really do. They talk back, So, try that out, if you're into that kind of stuff. I will also say affirmations for sure. Mirror work. I'm always big on mirror work. That will be the next episode. I really want to dive into that. That's huge on feminine energy and just really, really using that as like a magical vortex of some sort. It's very, very divine when you break it down. So excited for that episode. But yeah, affirmations, speaking to yourself, speaking love into yourself. That's another way to release energy, especially if you've given yourself affirmations that counteract the things that you experienced that day. So let's say you had a day that was just completely unloving and everyone was just mean and life was just life. And speak what you need to hear. The things that you need to hear that day, speak those things to yourself. You know what I mean? Because you are your first lover. You are your first friend. You are your first everything. So speak those things to yourself, because not only does it kind of retrain your mind subconsciously to always find that silver lining and to know how to automatically uplift yourself, but it also instills discipline, within yourself. It instills discipline to consistently have your own back, consistently, show yourself the love that people may not be giving you, because there are going to be many days where sometimes you may not feel the love around you. There can be throughout our lifetime. I feel like we all have experienced this before, where you're not feeling the love, you're not feeling the support, you're not feeling, you're not feeling inspired that day, you're not feeling motivated. There are going to be days like that, and I feel like we do have to have routines, and we have to have ways that we can be that for ourselves, because we can't always depend on other people. We can't be codependent to the extent where we don't know how to find love within ourselves. And I touched so hardly on that because I recently went to a meditation. It was hosted at the Smudge Life, which is in Tampa, Florida. It's a Black-owned holistic center where they have, crystals. They host classes, workshops. I want to give a shout out because it was amazing. And the woman who hosted the meditation, her name on Instagram is Zahara's Living. And I just want to make sure that I give the correct spelling, because I'm always about supporting healers in the community, because first of all, period, because that's always a beautiful thing to extend out. So it's spelled Zaharas Living. So Zahara's Living. She's a self-care coach. I love the meditation. It was so beautiful. So the meditation, we were invited to go ahead and climb a mountain and speak to our higher self. And, we were told to see what we looked like. We were told to, talk about what happened when we had a cup of tea with them, with ourselves, basically. And what we were talking about and what our higher selves told ourselves. And I'm going to speak openly about mine. Mine told me that, well, she told me, I told me that the love that you seek is a love that you have neglected to give to yourself. And I was like, ooh. Okay, self. I know we're really bold in our expression. Like, did you have to read me like that? And she was like, absolutely. Absolutely, yes, I did. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then, I proceeded to hug me. And when I hugged myself, it was like I felt the love that I realized I feel that I did not have present in my life. And I feel like that's because I was looking for love in the wrong places for a little while. I feel like I didn't really understand that the connections I was forming over the past year and a half, not all of them, but a few of them were just not, they're kind of ego-based, kind of not really substantial and genuine, and and it showed. I learned my lessons this year. When I tell you 2023 really taught me, this was a 7-year, very spiritual year, and I tell you, yes it was. And it really flew by. I'm like, wow. But yeah, I was like, okay, so the love I've been looking for is something I have not been giving myself all the way, so I need to make sure I do that. So the ways that I have been extending grace and patience and gentleness and love to others, even people who didn't deserve it, and forgiveness, I need to get that to myself. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of my moringa hot cocoa. It's really good, by the way. Which I'll put y'all on. Moringa hot cocoa, okay? Excellent. I'm Jamaican. I love anything moringa, honey. Give it to me. I am pro moringa all the time, all the way. So, yeah. So, I feel like that was huge for me, because I was like, wow, okay. I am definitely gonna make this solitude period a period of intentional self-love and intentional, changing my mindset, reframing my mindset about a lot of things, right? So that was big for me to touch on, by the way, because that really was a big shift for me this week. I really enjoyed that. Shout out to Sahara's Living. That was a beautiful meditation, right? So back to ways to distress our life, right? So walks in the park, anything that really just allows you to take that energy that you build up on a day-to-day basis and release it. Pray by the beach, walk on the beach, exercise, any way that you can transmute an energy. I feel like if you practice that on a day-to-day basis, really it's so helpful. It helps you learn how to manage stress way better. And not only does it help you manage stress, it also helps you with your manifestation, and learning how to make the best out of anything, how to make lemonade from from lemons, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like for me personally, when I do have stressful days, it is imperative to me to not sit in it. I have to find a way to transmute it. So I try to exercise. I try to walk it off. I try to take time to myself, be in nature. I have to find ways to transmute that energy, because I don't want it living within myself, because we all know that, if you're into holistic health and into spirituality, we all know that when you create stress, or when you have stress and it lingers in your body, or trauma or anything like that, if you don't find ways to try to release it and transmute it, it does stay stored in your body, which causes illness, which causes complete disarray in your aura, which then again creates issues with the things you attract. And it's very important to just make sure we're doing our spiritual hygiene routines on top of that, to make sure we're staying aligned with the things that we actually want, and we're doing the work for ourselves, and we're not only cleansing our body, but cleansing our aura and cleansing our emotional bodies, because we have many different bodies, right? So also want to be keen on leaving energy in the spaces that they reside in. If work stress you out, when you walk out that door, you leave that stress in that workplace. Don't bring it home to your family. Don't bring it home to your partner. Don't bring it home with you. Don't bring it in the car with you. Don't take it with you. I'm telling you. We do have to learn to keep things where they reside. Let's say your partner is stressing you out. when you leave your partner that day and you go to work, don't bring that stress to your workplace. And I know it's easier said than done. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean don't think about it. That doesn't mean don't try to solve it in a different space when you move locations. I'm just saying you have to learn how to leave the emotional energy kind of like where it's at, especially if it's negatively affecting you. I'm not saying neglect or avoid fixing the situation, because I'm never going to vouch for that, because I feel like a lot of things can be solved through communication, period. Especially amongst partners or just individuals. However, sometimes it's not. Some people are not willing to communicate, or some people are just not willing to, work with you on certain things. But for the most part, I feel like in those instances where you can't necessarily communicate at the moment, it's best to just find ways to transmute the energy or know your limits, check back with things. You know what I'm saying? Because if you take everything you deal with on a day-to-day basis to every space you go, that is really how stress kills. It's really crazy, actually, when you really think about how much we carry from place to place when a lot of things really should have stayed where they were. You know what I mean? Especially if they don't belong to us. Because I feel like we come across people, energies that aren't even ours, attitudes that aren't ours, moves that aren't ours, problems that are not ours, but we intake them, we digest them, and we walk along with them. And I think for me currently at this point in my life, I've always been the friend that people come to speak about their problems and things like that. But recently I had to stop being that, especially if it was not reciprocal. If I felt like if I can't come to you about my problems to discuss, to get a perspective, I don't want to hold space to listen to yours. Now, that may come off selfish to some people, but hear me out. Let me explain, right? Recently, I have always used the cup method, the cup philosophy, which is you pour into me, I pour into you. If I feel like you are not pouring into my cup, but I am pouring into yours, that is a problem. That's a problem. Because here's the thing. I used to have friendships where they would call me with their problems. And of course, I listen, I soothe them, I give them advice, because that's my friend. I care about you, right? And I don't want you going through those things. However, when it was time for me to need just that mental, emotional support, they couldn't provide that for me. And I know sometimes some people are just not in that space. Sometimes people are in positions where they genuinely don't have much to give as far as energetically. And I feel like that's just about us just holding space and patience for people, because people do have times where they're just not in the space to really give or to be able to hold space for another person. There are times that, we just have to be understanding of that, right? But if it's a consistent thing, that's absolutely no. Absolutely no. And you do have to realize when you are being treated like a wastebasket. And I hate to say it like this, but it's the truth. If you're consistently having to intake problems and be the quote unquote therapist friend, you have to have boundaries. You have to have boundaries. Otherwise, especially if you're empathic, you'll start to intake every single thing you're told, every energetic thing you're told. And when you have those moments where you are going through your own stuff and you're trying to process your own thoughts, I make it very imperative to let my friends know I'm not in a space to receive them or their problems at the moment. And I feel like that's a very important skill to do. And I don't feel like it's bad to tell people that you don't have the capacity to hold space for them right now. You don't have it. And it's not because you don't want to. It's because you just don't have it. And it's all about knowing ourselves, our limits. If I can't hold space for you, I cannot hold space for you at this moment. I'm sorry. I can't. I cannot. And don't feel bad for it. It may feel bad in the beginning. I promise you it will. It will feel bad. I'm letting you know now. It will feel bad. You'll feel like, dang, am I being selfish? But no, you're not, because if you have someone that just wants to dump on you consistently, and you know that there's not going to be any reciprocal exchange, and you know you're just going to feel the effects of having to find energy to give out to them when you don't have it yourself because your cup is not full, that means that you're not supposed to be giving right now, and that means you need to be giving to yourself right now, that you need to be finding your source of water, your source of, whatever you use to fill your cup. That's your time period to really dive into yourself. And you can't be things for people that you cannot be for yourself. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. It's the same way of if someone's asking you for advice on a situation you've never been in before. Your advice is with good intention, but there is no basis of which your advice is coming from. So it really is, slightly, it's slightly, I'm not going to say it's not helpful, but it's slightly, not necessarily something that they should necessarily listen to. Not all the time, but, I'm big on taking advice from people who actually have been in the positions that you need, advice for, or, things like that. I feel like it's important to think about stuff like that. Right? So, like, you're not going to ask a musician on advice about your health, right? You're going to ask a doctor, right? So I feel like we need to think about that more, too, when we're going to advice for people. So back to this list. So, yeah, leaving energy in the spaces they reside. If the energies don't belong to you, leave them where they are. If they do, there's a time and place to fixate on the issue and to get back to it, like I was saying earlier. Another big thing for me, don't procrastinate, right? Because I feel like a lot of stress can also come from our own habits, our daily habits too. So, for instance, if we know we get stressed easily when we do X, Y, and Z, and we still proceed to do it that way instead of trying to find a way to, find a route or a routine that alleviates stress and benefits what we're wanting for ourselves, right? So for me, one of the biggest things was to stop procrastinating. If I know something needs to get done, and I know if it doesn't get done, it's going to stress me out, but I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to wait. I have time. I stopped doing that because I realized when I don't procrastinate and I just handle things when I, especially before it's actually necessary, there's so much preventative care. There's so much stress that I completely miss because I just took the time to just sit down for a second and just do the things I need to do. You know what I'm saying? Because if you wait for the last minute, I promise you, I don't know about y'all, when I wait for the last minute to do something, it's like something occurs to just make me more stressed because it could possibly be a blockage or a problem. So for me, I don't like to procrastinate anymore. I used to be a big procrastinator, and my excuse would be, I'm just going with the flow of things. I just do things when I want to do them. And I'm still that way. But not when it comes to the things that are dear to my heart, not when it comes to the things that I need to protect, not when it comes to my business operations, not when it comes to things that I really care about. I have to be crossing my T's, dotting my I's. I have to be on it now. So yeah, things that I care about and that I really deem important to me, I don't procrastinate anymore. I make sure I'm very intentional with those things because, at the end of the day, what you don't water and nourish is not going to grow. And if you keep waiting until the last minute to really tend to something, it's going to catch on and it's going to teach you a little lesson there. So I learned my lesson with that. So I just, I try my best to not procrastinate with things that I care about a lot, right? So like when you can limit your worries and your stress, make those things priority, because not only is it good for you with things you care about, it's just good for discipline. Self-discipline is good for letting yourself know that you care about yourself. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways to show yourself that you care about yourself and to remember that you care about yourself, right? Because if you're handling things for yourself that you know you need to handle, that means you're loving yourself to the extent that you're going to make sure that, you know, you're there for yourself and you're going to do what you need to do for yourself when it comes to, I don't care if it's material things or things that you care about, whatever it may be, relationships, things like that. Tend to the things that you care about. Don't neglect them. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, thinking ahead on things that matter to you it's beautiful. I feel like it's such a beautiful thing when you get to that point too, especially if you have had issues with not thinking ahead all the time and kind of just feeling like life is life when really it's just you procrastinating and not paying attention to what you need to pay attention to because you're distracted. And I can speak heavy on that because that was me. So yeah, find the ways, because sometimes life is life and because you're not handling your business and you're distracted and you're being negligent towards yourself, and that's real. That's real. That's things that we have to think about before we just get upset with creator or get upset with other people. We really have to check ourselves. Huge. And that's another thing why rest is so important, because it gives you time to think and reflect. Reflection is so important within our process of knowing ourselves and growing and healing and just being better people, you know, and growing up, right? Like growing up. So yeah, so this is the episode for, you know, using our rest as an act of resistance and knowing that our rest is revolutionary. It's imperative. We do deserve it. We're not meant to be hustling and bustling and stressing and all over the place. You know, we do deserve to relax. And, you know, with me, my upbringing, I've watched the women in my family be very stressed. They didn't have that support. They didn't have that. They didn't have anyone telling them to slow down and just give themselves what they deserve. They were just always in hustle bustle mode. So with me, I feel like it's my life's calling to really advocate for that. I'm all for slow, intentional living, baby. You know, I'm all for tuning into spirit, figuring out what aligns with you, following spirit, not following the way society tells you how to do things. I don't believe that things that are for us are necessarily things we have to fight for. You know what I mean? I'm very, very big on that. Very, very big on that. I'm a big advocate for flow. You know, flow, baby. And I'm a water sign. So flow is important to me. Whatever flows, goes. Whatever doesn't, you know, it just must not be it. And that's not to confuse with if things get complicated or there are some blocks sometimes, because you're going to experience that. But I feel like you will know the difference. There's a huge difference between a situation that occurs that you have to resolve versus a complete block. You will know the difference. I feel like with the block, it's just something that just completely makes you feel outside of yourself. It makes you feel less of yourself. It makes you feel out of alignment. And I feel like you will know the difference. You'll know the difference completely. Right? So thanks for tuning in to today's episode. And, you know, I hope you guys are getting your rest, getting yourself time, enjoying your solitude, de-stressing on a daily basis, de-stressing, even if you can't do it on a daily basis, you know, because I know people are busy. People have different kinds of lives we live. I want to encourage you to do it on a daily basis. In the shower, close your eyes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Deep breaths for 5 minutes. You know, those things really change the trajectory of your day. And it helps you make better decisions when you're not stressed. You make better decisions. You're in touch with your intuition, which, you know, we all know your intuition can save your life at times. You know, it's, I think, really deep with things. So, yeah. So, get your rest. Keep your spiritual hygiene up to par. Remember, it's your responsibility to stay connected with yourself and to tune into yourself. It's your responsibility to find ways to distress your life and find what works for you. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Thank you so much. And again, happy Sunday. Happy Self-Care Sunday. Hope you guys are having a lovely one. Rest up. Loving yourself. Take a nice bath. You know what I mean? Just really settle into yourself. Know that you're deserving of that. You're deserving to rest. You're deserving to have a calm mind, a calm spirit, and to trust in the flow of creator and creation. That it's all working and conspiring for your greatest good. So that is all from me. Be sure to tune into the Instagram at the Self Love Witch Podcast. Don't be afraid to reach out. Also have my personal Instagram there because I know I talked to a few of you guys on there. I don't mind. I love who tunes in. I love that we register on the same concepts. I love that we form a community. I love that we are experiencing the same things and we can reflect on this. So don't be afraid to contact me. And yeah, stay tuned for a new episode this week. Stay beautiful, stay magical.